Demon Samurai build is going to focus on a ridiculous amount of fire damage, a lot of mobility, and a really good time to play. This is a very solid early and mid game build. I'm still working my way to end game, but I'm pretty sure it's going to do just fine there as well. So if this interests you, let's go ahead and jump right into the build to figure out how this absolute menace works. Now here's what we're doing in this build. We're going to be focusing around the Flamebringer longsword. This is a heavy longsword build, really focusing on our strength and agility stats, but we are going to be using a few flame spells as well, just to keep with the RP of the Demon Fire Samurai. We are also going to be using Temperance of Flame, allowing us to get as much fire on our weapon as possible, and we're going to be basing all of this off of a few pendants that are going to not only allow us to get a lot of mobility, but also raise our fire damage, which we are going to get to in just a moment. Now this build can go two ways. If you want to do more physical and fire damage, I highly suggest you just go with the agility and strength that I have in this particular build. But if you want to lean more into the spells and do kind of a hybrid spellcaster with a longsword, that is definitely an option. So when we get to the actual stats of the build, just put stats into magic rather than agility and strength. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the pendants of the build that make this build so fun to play. So our first pendant that I've found works very well with this build is going to be the Eagle Pendant. This is going to increase your weapon's stab attack power. Now, the longswords do have stab attack on them, so this is going to help us do a little bit more damage. And as we know, in any Souls-like or Souls game, doing more damage is always going to be the play when fighting bosses or some of these harder enemies the game has to offer. Moving to our second pendant, we are using the Twin Infant Pendant. This is going to increase stamina recovery speed. Once again, stamina is one of the most important stats and attributes you have in not only Wuchang Fallen Feathers, but in my opinion, every single Souls-like out there. When I saw this pendant, I thought this was the pendant that I'm going to use for every single build in every single playthrough I do of this game, so that is why it is going to make this list. Stamina recovery is crazy important, so the Twin Infant Pendant takes our second slot. Now the Demon Pendant is going to be in the third slot, and this is going to be an absolute no-brainer, as the Demon Pendant is not only going to give our weapon more fire damage, but it's also going to reduce our physical damage. Now that doesn't sound great at first, but the physical damage reduced is 20%, yet the fire damage gained is 50%. So if you have your fire temperance on your weapon, or you're using the Flamebringer's Infernal Fire brand, this is going to cause you to do a ridiculous amount of damage, so it definitely makes it into our third slot. Now, as far as our spells go to use as a backup for our longsword gameplay, we are going to be using Divine Might. This is a fantastic spell for increasing the damage of your next attack. It only costs one Skyborn Might, which is fantastic, so you can pretty much spam this before every single attack, just like you can for Royal Knight's Resolve. However, it's not nearly as good as Royal Knight's Resolve, and I cannot find anywhere on how much the damage increase is for your next attack, but I've been using this non-stop and I've had pretty good results so far. The next spell is Infernal Flames, which is going to send forth a flame that pursues enemies and causes burn-up buildup. This is a really good spell. It only costs 2 Skyborn Might. You can almost spam it if you have enough Might saved up, and it does a considerable amount of burn buildup, which I really like, as I have found that most enemies are susceptible to flame damage. Now for our third spell, I have Divine Blessing. I've swapped this out with another spell, which I'll share with you in just a second, but this pretty much makes you invincible and allows you, as long as you're standing in it, to recover health incredibly fast. This is a really nice spell in case you run out of your mana flasks, so I definitely have this one in my back pocket at all times. And finally, we have the Echo of Dutanga. This is a really awesome, in my opinion, spell that you can hit people in the back and get a guard break almost instantly. You can charge this up twice and smash down a second time, causing an area of effect, but I typically just use it to break stances so I can get those really nice obliterate attacks on bosses and enemies in the game. Now, as far as your actual skills go, there's a few things you definitely need, and then some suggestions I'm going to give you. First and foremost, you do need to go down the majority of the left-hand side of the tree. The reason being is the more you go down here, the more mana-based charges you get, and more healing is always going to be great for you, and more endurance means you're going to be able to dodge more and attack more as well. Now, if there's a few things here that I definitely want you to unlock, it would be the Fiery Embers perk, as this is going to increase the burn buildup caused by your spells. We are going to be using a few spells here, nothing crazy, but because we're doing a burning demon build, there definitely needs to be a few here. Now, I also want you to snag the health siphon. This is very situational. If you don't like to be this high in your madness, you won't need to use this, but having a little bit of health return to you after the final strike of your combo is very, very nice, especially when you're running through the land of Shu. Obviously, you want to have Skyborn Call 1 and 2. Increasing the Skyborn might you can have is definitely going to allow you to do many more combos than you typically would. And obviously, as I said, working your way down here to Skyborn Call 3 is going to continue to increase those stacks. Now, where the majority of our damage is going to come from for this particular build is going to be with the longsword, and that's going to scale very well with strength and agility. So we are going to do a lot to try and get as much strength and as much agility as possible. I also wanted to make sure that we could have strong blade and get extra longsword mastery anytime we possibly could, as that's going to allow you to get more damage out of your weapon. And then coming down the tree here as well, anytime we could get close to a +5 agility or +5 strength is definitely something that we wanted to do. Now, having Clash is also going to be really good here, as you are going to be doing damage at the same time as your enemies the majority of the time. So having them do less damage to you is always going to be very, very nice when your weapons clash. Obviously, we have some more mastery down here as well. And basically, anytime you see a +5 of anything that could scale well with the weapon or help for your quality of life, you want to snag as well. Now, another very important skill we need to get is the Crescent Arc. This is going to allow you to dodge out of the way, and then you can do a follow-up Crescent Arc to jump at your enemy and absolutely annihilate them. That is going to come from these two down here, and it's a very, very helpful and powerful skill. This dodge pretty much makes your iframes absolutely bananas, so you want to get this for your build. Moving on up here, we do have a few more in the spear, but it's not because we're using a spear, it's just because I wanted to obtain the +5 agility as well as the +5 strength, and then get as much strength and vitality down here as we could before we ran out of points. But as I stated, the majority of the left side is quality of life. If you want more damage, don't do as much on the left side and try to focus on getting agility and strength in any of the other trees you possibly can. But I think that covers everything you're going to need for the Flaming Samurai build. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. I'm starting to dip my toes into Wuchang builds. I know I've done a billion different Elden Ring builds and other builds in other games, but I'm going to start pumping out some Wuchang builds, and I have a feathering build coming up that I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy. So if you like this type of content, let me know by liking the video and hitting that subscribe button on your way out. I appreciate you guys watching until the end of the video. We have a ton more Wuchang and Night Rain content coming out as well, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And until next time, guys, stay safe, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next one.